Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we will be talking about a pattern change that I predict will be occurring and why this pattern change may lead into a rather snowy and cold-filled November for a good portion of the United States, especially the northern, potentially the northeast, and really the northwestern United States. Maybe not the southern, because usually the south doesn't really see snow in November. It maybe has happened before, but again, more focused towards the northern half of the country. So yeah, I think I'll present you the information that I've been kind of looking at, and I think it's a pretty good possibility. Obviously, nothing is confirmed. This isn't anything that's set in stone, but again, nothing really in the weather is. But again, this is just kind of a bit less than some of the 10-day forecasts, as this is just more of a really looking at the climate rather than more of just like immediate weather that is occurring. So yeah, if you guys at any point in this video do enjoy what you're seeing, you kind of get excited by this similar stuff, consider subscribing. Obviously, don't subscribe just because I told you so. Enjoy it first, see if you like it, and you could help this out by subscribing and hitting the thumbs up button. Again, it helps out a lot. If you have any comments or concerns as well, feel free to leave them down below. I get to as many as possible, usually the majority of them. Okay, let's start talking about this. So again, first off, I want to show you what pattern change I am referring to. So first off, I'll just play this model. Here's the time. You can see October 19th, the different times of the day. And I want to see what you guys notice, where the storm motion is. Where are they moving? They're moving from west to east, and you can see there's a lot of them. We just had one this week. This is one next week, Tuesday. Look at it, developing a strong cold front. We got potentially some rain, and notice that it is impacting the south, especially with lots of snow and rainfall. But anywhere really east of the Rockies, it's not really a snowy pattern, which is why, again, it may lead or translate into one, because in my opinion, I think this is what's going to happen. So see all these systems and how they lack a snowy component. This one does, but it's way north into Canada. The rest of them, look at this one next week. I mean, it's raining. There's no snow with it. It's just rain. This one has snow across the Rockies, but again, once it moves on to the plains, no snow, just rain. Same thing with this beast. It is really just snowing and raining across the southwest, and it actually doesn't go far out to enough to show it once it moves out. But again, none of them really have a snowy side to this. And if I were to show you the Canadian model, for example, I want to show you this weather pattern. It really shows much of the same thing. Let me run this forward. A lot of storms coming in from the west, so it's active, extremely active for this time of the year, even when it's usually active, but it's even more active. It's hyperactive. And notice, again, there's no snow component really that's impressive. We do have a lot of storm systems, and again, I mean, this map is lit up from every angle possible, but again, really none of them are snowy storms. And the Canadian at 240 hours, it shows a lot more coming in onto the west coast, but it doesn't show as much snow really across the east, which again, I'm not saying that there should be, but there should be, at least at this time of the year, late October, there should be some snow starting to fall across Minnesota and North Dakota, especially with such big storms. But they just really aren't developing anything. It's just not cold enough for it. Now let me show you one more model, and that would be the European model, which I actually have to change my website in order to show that. Okay, so this is the last kind of main model that I want to show you, and this is the European model. So notice it also shows that first system today. Really, it's already moving in onto the west coast of the United States as we are speaking currently. And notice it does bring us snow, rain, and it slides towards the east. It does develop, but again, not really a snowy side. Maybe a bit into Wyoming, and there are some watches and advisories for that. But anywhere else that is, there could be snow at this time of the year. If it were just a bit more cooler, it's rain. And you can see the second system that flows onto here, which is already starting to begin on Thursday, Friday. There it goes. There's a little bit of, again, rain. The rain stretches out way into central Manitoba and Saskatchewan. A lot of snow potential for the mountains, though not as impressive as it would be if there was just a bit more cold air. Definitely, though, lots of rain for the west. And again, that's just for the west, really, in the higher elevations, as the snow is nowhere to be seen anywhere east. And you can see that there is plenty of storm systems. Some of them are extremely powerful, according to really all the models. But again, they are lacking all that snowy component. And here is my theory as to why I think this pattern will be translating into a very potential snowy pattern into November. So this is only goes out to 240, right? But I think that this pattern will continue well beyond 240. And my hypothesis for that is simply just we're taking a look at the GFS model, which was the first model I showed you. And look, it goes out to 384 hours, and even at 384, it still shows that activity across the west. It may have subsided. This is kind of an intermediary between storm systems, but that is a lot of precipitation still occurring. So again, that is past the 240, which the European stops right here. I'll show you. So again, this is kind of the European shows up until the Wednesday of the 27th of October. Look what the GFS does. It continues bringing on precip. No slowdown of the pattern that has been occurring that will be really starting today across California, a stormy pattern and much of the West Coast. So the thing is, what I think will happen, so I mentioned that all of these storms, once they go through the mountains, they do produce a system across the plains. It's just not really snow driven. It's just rain, right? So as we get towards November, I think that we could see a kind of a lessening warm pattern, just a normal, honestly, just because the days are shorter, just on average, the days are going to get cooler because that's what happens in November. But I also think that the anomalies that we're seeing right now in terms of temperatures, it's pretty warm even for the temperature or even for the time that we are seeing right now. It is very warm, and let me just demonstrate that to you. We don't have a lot of cold air. If there is some, it is very minimal, and it's really not as impressive as the anomalies in terms of the warmth. And you can see that if there are cool temperatures, they are rather minimal across the real estate, and they are not as profound as they could be. Now, I think that as we get towards November, while this GFS introduces a ton of heat here, you can see it's a lot of heat. I think what we could start seeing very well is a pattern that starts transitioning towards cooler temperatures. Now, again, this model in particular, the GFS, that doesn't indicate that. It shows the heat, if you will, strengthening. But again, even if it does strengthen, as you get towards November, the daytime averages cool down. So if you see 5 degrees above average now versus in November, it could be cold enough for snow in November versus now. That means the difference between rain or snow. And you can see this was a GFS model on the prior one that I just showed you. And you can see it doesn't have the indication of high heat. Again, I think by early November, we could start seeing that temperatures cooling down in terms of average. And of course, I do think that there could be some cooler air slipping into the United States. Now, what does that mean? I think that this pattern, again, with this onslaught of precipitation, these storms, one after the other, will continue to some degree, maybe not to the same degree we're going to be seeing it in the next few weeks, but it will, I think. There will be a lot of precipitation flowing in from the Pacific Ocean. And what that will do is it will take some of that cold air or cooler air compared to what we're seeing now. And those storms, which right now are just all rain, will start beginning to produce snow across the Dakotas, South Dakota, Minnesota. And now you may be wondering, okay, well, that makes sense, right? That's what winter, that's usually what happens in winter. And not always the case, because last year, for example, if you recall, early November, we had an unprecedented heat wave. I mean, there was, I think, 7 days here in Chicago, or no, it was 10 days of 70s, and from November, I think, 3rd through the 13th. So, I think this case, this year, the November will be much cooler, and there won't be such heat, and I think it'll be a lot more active. So, sometimes if winter starts late, sometimes it starts early. I think this year it will be a rather earlier start, maybe a tad later for some, again, as the heat, I think, will continue through the rest of October. But once November comes, it will kick in, and I think it could kick into high gear again with that active pattern. These storm systems tapping into colder air. This could mean snow anywhere from, the Dakotas to Iowa, Nebraska, Michigan, Wisconsin, Illinois, kind of the northern half of the United States into the Northeast, especially the inland portions of the Northeast. The West, I think, will continue to see cooler air with a lot of snow, with a lot of rain. So it's definitely something that will bring beneficial impacts because of the drought there. And that's why I think that this could translate this pattern change, because again, we haven't been seeing such rain, such a stormy active pattern up until really we're going to start seeing it this week. That's why I think this pattern change will translate into a cold and a snowy potential start to winter, or at least November. Now again, it may take longer for this to materialize, the cold air to come in, and with that active pattern kind of to dance around and produce those snowstorms, maybe up until a month from now, or maybe in 15 to 16 days we start seeing some really strong indications of that coming true. And for this, I want to show you the Climate Prediction Center. So this is a 30 outlook. I don't really want to look at that. What I want to show you is a 3 to 4 week outlook. So these outlooks usually are pretty warm biased, the 3 to 4 week outlook. And this is what they show for through the 30th and through the 12th of October. They show equal chances for a large portion of the United States, and where they do show above averages across the northern kind of Great Lakes and Northeast. And while I do think this is a bit aggressive, I think this is plausible, because what I do think is that the cool temperatures will start first across the west, northwest, and over the period of 10 to 15 days will kind of migrate towards this area. Now, again, these aren't accurate to the fullest extent, so this 3 to 4 week outlook may, be conservative in this warm air. It may be a bit too liberal. Again, it's hard to say, but I do think that somewhere around the first half of November, again, it may be a bit late, a few days later than what they're showing here, a few days earlier, but we will start seeing more cool air kind of spiral in. They have this air really just kind of limited to Alaska and the Pacific Ocean, you could assume. I think at this time, 30th through the 12th, it will be more pronounced across the western United States, and as we push this forward, it will start spreading towards the east to, say, towards the middle half of November and late November, kind of encompassing much of the northern United States, in at least average to slightly below average temperatures, if not a lot below average. And again, with such an active pattern, all you need is average temperatures, and you will definitely see some snowstorms. So, this is definitely not in direct disagreement with what I'm trying to say here. The 8 to 14 outlook, they're still showing a lot of warmth, and I think that's likely because, again, for the end of October, I think at least it will be rather warm. But I want to show you one model that goes out very far. I rarely show it, but I do sometimes show it for the fun of it. But I do think that obviously it's inaccurate with any individual storm system or whatnot. But I think what it does show in terms of the broad kind of pattern is accurate. So notice, it shows a lot of activity right across the west. There's storm after storm after storm coming in. That's what's been happening. But then look, again, no rain, right? No snow. It's all rain. And again, that's what the models are showing that I showed you. All of them agree on this. But then towards around this 400 hours, so again, this is very far out. Again, the GFS does not go out this far, so this is why this model shows it by itself, because it's only goes out this only model that goes out this far. Look, so this is around early November. Again, look what it starts showing. It starts showing that pattern. Still very active across the west, but look what we have. We have systems that are bringing a bit more snow across the mountains, right? There's a bit more colder air here. Still not enough really to bring snow across the northeast or the upper plains, but look at this. We do start seeing these snow systems become more snowy into the interior portion of New England on kind of the backside of them. We start seeing snow more across the Dakotas and Minnesota, Montana, and look, that snow gets down again into potentially Illinois, Michigan. I don't know about this scenario, but you can see what they're showing, that the pattern starts bringing in colder air and even potentially below average. And look, that rides up right along the interior portion of the Northeast. And the pattern, it continues, it's active, and it brings in more systems. And you can see that they have a lot more of a snowy, if you will, kind of side to them. A lot of these storms, and you can see there's one again. There's another one that starts brewing. It's a bit further toward the north, but again, all we need is just a more precip and a cooling pattern, and we could start seeing a lot more, if you will, snow occurring. I want to see what the previous CFS model run shows this, if it shows this, because usually they have notorious for being kind of inconsistent, these models. From model run to model run, the CFS, but let's see what it shows. Okay, so it does show a bit of a cooldown around the 400, 500 hour timeline, which is extremely far out, but, we're not really looking for individual cooldowns, more of an overall pattern. And you could see, yeah, it definitely does start showing more of a cooler pattern invading. Look at that right there. Also another snowstorm that's again further towards the south. So again, I think you could say that's consistent with the one I just showed you, which was 12 hours later. It's showing an active pattern continuing, just with, again, more of a snowy side to these systems. And right now we are going to be seeing an active pattern, except with the temperature anomalies that we are seeing, they will be mainly rain. And you can see that the Canadian, for example, total accumulated precip, it's a lot of rain, not snow. Across the west there is a bit of snow because it's a bit cooler from the mountains, and it's a bit closer to normal in terms of actual temperatures. As you saw in the Climate Prediction Center, they are showing a bit below, so you can see that's quite a bit of snow. Anywhere else, really not that much. Same thing with the GFS, 384 hours, it shows a lot across the west, not much anywhere east. So again, I think that this will continue to start kind of shifting as we get further and further, and we start seeing potentially an invasion of extreme, I would say almost cold and snow potentially into November. So it could be definitely an onslaught, I would say, at least for that's what I'm seeing, at least for now. I was looking at the AccuWeather winter forecast for kind of the regions, and they are saying that for November they are indicating a snowier scenario for much of the northern United States, and I think that's because again this active pattern will continue. We will start seeing you don't even need really that cold of a temperature change, just a bit, and kind of bring it down to normal, let alone below normal. That would completely bring into a snowy pattern with such an active pattern. So again, I think it's exciting, I think it's promising, and if this pattern does not hold through with this activity in terms of these storms, then that may prove probably the biggest side to the kind of the flaw to this. Because again, I think that it will cool down no matter what. We've been stuck in this warm pattern for so long. La Nina falls are typically warm, but the winters usually get a bit colder, and I think we will start seeing that in the next few really days or weeks in the models. And these are the individual European ensembles, and you can see some of them in the next 15 days. So again, it's just 15 days, so I wouldn't say a scenario where so much snow across the northern United States is likely, because again, I think this will be occurring a bit later into November. This just takes us through the 1st of November, but you can see a lot of activity across the west. Some of them just go absolutely berserk, or maybe a bit too much. But even a scenario like this, or look at that, I mean, almost all of them are showing a very active scenario. A scenario more like this is still impressive and probably more likely. But yeah, some of them do show a bit more of an invasion of snow. A bit earlier on, you can see across the Colorado kind of plains and into portions of Nebraska. Again, I think they're a bit too excited, a bit too early out. I think that a model run like this is pretty plausible, a ton across the Northwest. And if this were to go out, say, 15 more days, I think we would see a lot more across the northern United States. And you can see some of them are showing signs of that already, kind of breaking out of that pattern a bit earlier, out of this warm pattern. But again, I think it may be a bit longer before, I think after Halloween, honestly, the greatest chance of this occurring. But look, every single model run just shows ridiculous snow for the West. And look at this here in Nevada, some of those snowfall totals, they are just really high, 70, 60 inches potentially. And it seems to be affecting most large mountain ranges, the Cascades, the Sierras, the Bitterroots, the Grand Tetons, and into portions of southern Colorado even right there. So again, I think an active pattern and a promising pattern for snow lovers into November is gonna be kind of taking shape. So hopefully that made sense. If not, well, I guess that's too bad. I did my best kind of to explain this, but I think it all makes sense as long as, again, we see this continued active pattern with all this precipitation flowing in. And again, I will just show you this North American view just to show you the broader view of this pattern. And I think it will just continue to be very active. Because look, I mean, so again, these storms coming from the Pacific, and look, as we push towards the end of their long range, 312 hours out, look what the GFS shows, right? So it continues that active pattern. And look, we could continue to see storm after storm sliding in, and we see another one kind of already making its way down here. So I don't think there's going to be any signs of stopping, and that's usually characteristic of a La Nina pattern, this onslaught of storms from the west. Last year, it was just really affecting kind of the northwestern tip of the United States, affecting more of Canada. This year, that's the thing, it's more angled into the United States, which is why I think there's a lot more potential for this pattern to be much more snowy for the rest of the United States as well. So yeah, that's basically all I wanted to show you. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hope you learned something new. I want to see what these these GFS models are showing. This is an ensemble, so it's many models combined. And I'm just showing this for, honestly, I just want to see myself what they're showing. So notice right there, do you see that? Look, a lot of heat, right? They move it in, but towards the last few slides, that heat diminishes quite a bit. And I'm not saying that, oh, it's going to turn cold, but it's diminishing. Yes, that could be just the confidence of the models, but it could be also just the pattern, going from an extreme anomaly to more of a cooler pattern, which would support those snowstorms. Here's more of a detailed view of that, if you will, because that was a 5-day average. Yeah, you can see there definitely are some signs of at least more normal temperatures moving in. And again, they will, as I said, start from the northwest, kind of the west area. EPS, this is the European ensembles. They only go out to 240. So you can see they show a lot of heat, but definitely a large area of cool weather kind of to tap into right there. The GEPS, these are, I don't honestly know what ensemble family these are, but they are quite a good ensemble. I've looked at them in the past, and look, they do show that cool air kind of positioning itself across the west again, probably sliding towards the east later on. All right, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next episode. See ya. Bye.